name is John Smallwood, and I just got done writing a book, a little booklet, and I'm putting it in video form. And the book is called "Signs of the Latter Days and Jesus Christ Coming." Basically, what it is a book concerning the prophecies of the Bible, specifically the ones about the last days, about the tribulation period, about the Battle of Armageddon, the millennial reign, tribulation period, pretty much things that are going to happen, that are going to take place after our present time. What I'm doing is I'm using those, taking those prophecies, those events, the prophetic events, and I'm taking events pretty much from the past 200 years, and they're showing how they have helped forward those prophecies. In a sense, I'm showing how they are used, how they have been used, and how they have helped fulfill those prophecies. And I'm not trying to tie in one particular event, saying this event, this, that. I'm not trying to say this prophecy actually ties in with this event and says, well, I'm trying to explain. It's just hard to explain it. What I'm trying to say, I'm not trying to say that this actual event, worldly event that took place, actually, I'm not trying to say that the actual Bible prophecy, it was prophesying that particular event. No, what I'm trying to say is, what I'm trying to talk about here is say actual events that have taken place in our history, past 200 years, which you could, by the way, you could go even further back than that, but I'm only going the past 200 years. And I'm showing how these events have helped further these prophecies to our present time and the ones that are going to happen after. That's what I'm trying to do. Now, first, I got a lot of stuff to cover, because the book is about 40 pages of these little pages long. The first part of the book is verses. I'm going to give verses all the way Old Testament, New Testament, pertaining to all these events, these prophetic events, and then I'm going to get to the actual historical events. And then I'll start with a little bit more of verses at the end and more events. And there's a few other events I thought of after I got done with writing the book, but I'm not going to add them because it's already been published. Well, I've already had it made, and I probably would, if I end up doing it and changing, I'd probably think of something else. So I could, this in here was just meant to show how even that our own history is working towards the Bible history and is working towards fulfilling Bible prophecy. That's what this book is for. So the first prophecies I'm going to use is the ones from Daniel. Now, if any of y'all know Daniel real well, this Daniel is a book full of prophecies, especially concerning the end times, especially concerning our time right after the rapture. In fact, you could use Daniel and Revelation go hand in hand. You could use them as companions, in a sense. Because a lot of the symbolism and prophecies that are mentioned in Daniel are mentioned again and repeated in Revelation, or are at least expounded upon a little more. So, first one, Daniel 2. This is talking about the great image that Nebuchadnezzar saw, which is basically a picture of the kingdoms that were going to come. And I'm going to go ahead and read it to you. Daniel 2, 31 through 44. Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet, and that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind there carried them away, and no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. This is the dream, and we will tell thee the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven, hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee a ruler over them all. thou art this head of gold. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and after another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron. For as much as iron breaketh in pieces, it subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, it shall break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay, and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. But there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. This is pretty much talking about the dream that Nebuchadnezzar had of the kingdoms, of it, which was shown in an image of a statue, which was made of different layers of precious metals, which went down from precious metals and then went on down to iron, and then iron would mix with clay. There's a picture of the kingdoms that were going to come after Daniel. Daniel was living in Babylon, and the head of gold was Babylon, because he was talking to Nebuchadnezzar. He said, "Thou art this head of gold." So he was talking about Babylon. He says, "Gold, the gold head is Babylon, is the Babylonian Empire." The next one, which was silver, was the kingdom of MEDO-PERSIA, which came after, which conquered Babylon and took over a great hunk of the world at the time. Then the Greeks came, which was the brass kingdom, and took over the Median Persians, and took over a lot as well. But then the last one, the iron, is Rome, which which conquered the Greeks, and pretty much conquered parts of Persia, even though Persia, the empire, didn't exist anymore. But they went into Persia, and that's basically. But then there's another kingdom, the feet into clay. The iron and clay is the revived Roman Empire, as it is also it's also as the kingdom of the revived Roman Empire, which it was talking about, will also be as powerful as iron, but it also will be mixed with clay, which symbolizes that it's going to be kind of like weak and strong at the same time, in a sense. Like the weak, it's going to have mixed with the seed of men. It's going to have men control in it, like the Romans did. It's going to be weak, and they're not going to cleave one another. They're not going to trust each other. They got man and control everything, the corruption of man in it, and it's just going to destroy it. That's what ended up really destroying the Roman Empire, because they were a really heavily corrupt society, and the same thing's going to, in a sense, bring down the revived Roman Empire. They're not going to cleave one to another. It's run by man in every way, and it's going to bring it down. And then God's going to set up a kingdom. That's what the stone was. The stone that smote the image and then later became a great mountain. That is the kingdom of God that's going to be set up later, what we call the millennial reign. That's what that's talking about. Now, Daniel 7:7-9. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. This is talking about the revived Roman Empire. And it calls him dreadful and terrible, strong exceedingly. The fourth beast, the Roman Empire itself, was a strong empire, and the revived Roman Empire is going to be strong, very strong. It's going to be the only man-made, in a sense, empire that will actually be in control of the whole world. The Roman Empire, none of the other empires ever done that. they were powerful, but they never actually had the whole world. They had the known world. But to have the entire globe, they never have had that. No empire's ever done that. The closest one to ever do that was the British Empire, and they didn't do it either. Not by any means, they didn't do it. But this kingdom will actually do it. And the 10 horns are the 10 nations. 10 kings, 10 nations. You can't really separate the kings and the nations themselves. But it's basically the 10 nation confederacy of the revived Roman Empire. And then the little horn is their ruler, the Antichrist. And then it talks about the Ancient of Days, which is God, coming down and destroying the empire and destroying them. Daniel 7:14, and there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom that all people, nations, and languages shall serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. That's talking about Christ. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom which shall never be destroyed. Daniel 7:21-27, I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down, and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings, that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first. He shall subdue 3 kings, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and shall be given into his hand, and they shall be given into his hand until a times and a dividing of time. But the judgment shall sit, they shall take away his dominion, to consume and destroy it unto the end. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints and of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. Again, this is a talk about the revived Roman Empire, the fourth beast, the 10 horns, the 10 nations, the 10 kings, the fourth beast, the revived Roman Empire, the one that talks about here, and he shall speak great words against Most High, that's Antichrist, thinking to change times and laws. He's changing the traditions, he's changing the standards, he's changing laws, he's changing things the way he sees fit, the way he wants them. He speaks out against he persecutes the Christians. There's another word that talks about him understanding dark sentences. Basically means he's smart. That basically means he's pretty smart. He's a genius. In fact, if you read about him, in Daniel especially, he's pretty much, this guy is pretty much going to be a genius in about everything you can think of. He's really going to be a smart, very educated, smart man. He's not going to be an idiot. By no means. This man is really smart. But that's basically what this is talking about. Daniel 9:24-27. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people, and upon thy holy city, to finish the transgression, and to make an end of sins, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks. And 62 weeks the streets shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublous times. And after the 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the Prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. And the end thereof shall be with a flood. And unto the end of the war desolations are determined. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate. 70 weeks was talking about, each week is 7 years, so 70 times 7 is 490 years. Basically, that's what he was talking about, and he talks about here. And you say, how do you know that what that means? Well, he says in verse 25 that you start counting from the going forth from the going forth of the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem unto the Messiah. So you count the years from when the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem was given, which was given by Cyrus after the Babylonian captivity, which lasted 70 years for the sins of Israel, for the Jews, their sins and forsaking God. God had proclaimed that the captivity was going to happen, and He had given them. Now He had given them several times, many times to repent and get right, and He had had mercy on them, and He had mercy on them and blessed them when they got right. But every time they would turn right back to their sins, and they done it so much that God finally said that this was enough. The judgment's come. I've been long suffering with you and merciful to you enough, and you won't change. So I'm about to send the judgment on you. And He proclaimed that it was going to happen, and told them before it happened. And they didn't believe. A lot of people didn't believe Him, didn't want to hear it, but it did happen. Nebuchadnezzar and the Chaldeans came, killed many people, destroyed the city, destroyed the walls, and took some of the prominent people into the captivity to Babylon, and left some of the poor people. He did leave Jeremiah the prophet, though. He was there. He was the one that prophesied that it was going to happen, but he was one of the few that was not taken. He was not taken. In fact, Nebuchadnezzar, when he got to Jerusalem, Jeremiah was in a dungeon at the time when they captured it, and he ordered some of his leaders to release Jeremiah out of the dungeon. And that was the last 70 years. That's how long the captivity lasted. They were taken around 586 BC, and it lasted 70 years. So that would, I mean, there's one time He comes and takes some people captive in like 600 something BC, and then the final destruction is in about 586. So sometime around the later 500s, or when Cyrus takes over, he makes the proclamation to build Jerusalem again. And I believe it's at the beginning of Ezra where you see him make the proclamation. It's written. The proclamation is written. In fact, in either in Isaiah or Jeremiah, there's a prophecy concerning Cyrus's birth, because he was going to actually do this. This is a prophetic. His prophecy. There's a prophecy concerning him in the Bible. It's either in Isaiah or Jeremiah. I don't know which one. But in Ezra, beginning of Ezra, he makes the proclamation to go build Jerusalem, and asked who there was there among the Jews that would go and do it. Because he said, God has put this in my heart. And He says, who among you will do this? Will go build Jerusalem again. That's what it's talking about. And it was built, the street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublous times. It was troublous times when they were building it, because they had problems on all sides. And nobody wanted to build it. Everybody was there was constant persecution when they were doing it. But and then it says unto the Messiah, which is basically was Jesus Christ, shall be 7 weeks, 7 years, and then streets are in 2 weeks, 62 times 7. In all, with 7 times 62, 69. So you just take 7 off the 490, which equals 483. So you can count from there to there, 43 years. But there's one more week you mentioned that's missing out of the 70, which is mentioned at verse 27, when it mentions 1 week. That's the tribulation period it's talking about there. It says after the 62 weeks, 62 weeks, shall Messiah be cut off. And then it talks about the prince that shall come. That's Antichrist. It talks about what he's going to be doing. He's going to destroy the city, the sanctuary, Jerusalem. So this is basically talking about the Antichrist, and it's talking about the 1 week, the tribulation period, that the covenant that he's going to make. He's going to set up a covenant with the nation of Israel for 7 years, and he's going to declare himself to be God in the midst of the week. He's going to go sit on the mercy seat and say, "I'm God, worship me." That's basically what he's going to do. Now I'm going to restart in Matthew. Matthew has a lot. Matthew, in fact, I don't know how many exactly, but like I believe all 4 of the Gospels. I believe. Well, maybe I don't know. Maybe 3 of them. I know at least 3 of them has the instance where has the instance where Christ makes a statement where some of his disciples are walking around, and they're trying to be show off a little bit, and they're showing, hey Jesus, look at all these temples. They're showing him the temples of Jerusalem, some of the beautiful temples that have been built, and showing him all the buildings. And he was looking at them, and then he said, see all these temples here? See all this? There shall not be one stone left on another that shall be thrown down. And that was a prophecy right there. He said these are all these stones are not going to be standing on one another. They're all going to be torn down. And he made a prophecy there. And then they go to him later and they asked him, when shall these things be? They can't ask him when this is going to happen and what's the sign told me if this happening and things like that. Then he goes and tells them. And I'm going to start. Matthew 24, 5-7. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. That's happening right now. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines, and pestilences, and earthquakes in divers places. Matthew 24, 9-12. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Matthew 24, 32-34. Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender, and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. So likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. Verily I say unto you, that this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Matthew 24, 36-38. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noe were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark. Matthew 25, 31-46. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. And before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was a hungered, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee a hungered, or fed thee, or thirsty, or gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger, and took thee in, or naked, and clothed thee? Or when saw we thee sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, as much as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Then shall he say unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was a hungered, and ye gave me no meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me not in. Naked, and ye clothed me not. Sick, and in prison, and ye visited me not. Then shall they also answer, saying, Lord, when saw we thee a hungered, or a thirst, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, did not minister unto thee? Then shall he answer them, saying, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye did it not to one of the least of these, ye did it not unto me. And these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into life eternal. Now, the first part is talking about the first part is talking about things that were going to be happening before Christ's coming, the last days. That's what these verses are talking about. And the others are talking about, again, when the days of Noah, what was happening before the flood happened, same thing. This is what's going to be happening before I come back, before the rapture, during the last days before my coming. And then it talks about the parable of the fig tree, which some people believe that this is talking specifically about when Israel becomes a nation again, which, by the way, is a big part of prophecy, seeing Israel become a nation again. That is a big part of the prophecies being fulfilled, is Israel becoming a nation, which, by the way, took place in 1948. Some people believe, I'm not going to just say yes, that's what it means, because I don't really know for sure. But some people believe that it's saying that this generation shall not pass, which is talking about the generation that was around when Israel became a nation. This generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. So that means we're really close. if that's true, because that generation is the World War II generation, and they're dying out, and a lot of them are dying. There's not very many of them left. The one about the next verses I mentioned, which was talking about the gathering of all nations, is talking about the judgment of the nations. Now, that has a lot. That's another futuristic thing, and it's talking about what it is talking about specifically. When it talks about, it's going by how the nations treated the nation of Israel, how the nations treated the Jews. That's what it's talking about, and it's talking about the people, and it's talking about the nations that treated Israel good, and talks about how they would be exalted in a sense, and it's talking about how they would be blessed and exalted, and then it talks about the other side, the ones that treated them like garbage. The Bible does say, even early on when to Abraham, I will bless them that bless thee and curse them that curse thee. That's basically what this is when it comes to the nations. The first group, the ones on the right hand, were the ones that blessed the nations of Israel. And God says, you're blessed in my Father. The others were the ones that cursed the Jews and hated the Jews. And God's saying, you're cursed in everlasting fire. And God's cursing them. So that's basically what that's talking about. And I'll continue on in part 2.